In a dark city street, a gang of vile thugs chased a beggar man who was running with all his might trying to survive. He desperately searched for shelter, knocking on doors one after another, but they were all closed in his face. He had no choice but to keep running, but his pursuers were in no hurry. They shot arrows at him, not to finish him off immediately, but to amuse themselves and prolong his suffering. As the man staggered in pain, the gang leader watched the situation closely. He turned to one of his men, the hunter, and said coldly, "The prey must not reach the river. If that happens, he will have won, and that is unacceptable." One of the arrows lodged in the man's shoulder, but he forced himself on and continued running, narrowly avoiding the next arrow. As he approached the river, the gang members detonated a house in front of him to slow him down, but the beggar did not stop. He continued his rush, despite his wounds, until he was about to reach the finish line. Then the hunter fired his last arrows. The last arrow pierced his heart directly. His body collapsed and fell into the river, ending his life. Days later, his daughter Natasha arrived in the city looking for her father. She soon learned from the landlady of his apartment that his financial situation was dire, forcing him to leave his residence. The woman gave her a box belonging to her father and advised her to search in an area frequented by the homeless. Natasha went to that area and met one of the homeless men, but he had no useful information. After moments of desperate searching, she entered a bar to make a phone call. There, Chance, a former U.S. Marine, was sitting drinking orange juice. The girl caught his attention, but he did not show interest at first. When Natasha left the bar, she was subjected to a robbery attempt as several thieves tried to snatch her bag by force. Chance could not ignore the scene, so he confronted them with amazing skill. He punched the first in the face, then knocked the second to the ground, kicked the third with force, making him crash into a nearby car, and finally crushed the fourth's head with a knockout blow. Amidst Natasha's astonishment, he picked up her bag from the ground and handed it to her, saying, "Be careful next time." Natasha decided to go to the police station to report her father's disappearance. Then she went to Chance and offered him $100 a day to help her. He refused at first, as he was planning to take on a new job, but due to debts, he was not allowed to take the fishing boat. He went back to Natasha and agreed to help her for 2 days for $217. The girl smiled and agreed. The search journey began. Natasha met the same homeless man again, and he told her that he had found her father's bag among the other homeless people's belongings. She opened the bag and found inside it an advertisement for a recruitment agency, which gave her a new lead. She went with Chance to the broker in charge, but he denied knowing anyone by her father's name. During that time, the policeman who was investigating the case received shocking news. Natasha's father's body was found completely burned. When the girl was informed of the news, she broke down in tears and felt deep regret for not trying to contact him all these years. That night, unknown men broke into the recruitment broker's house and woke him up violently. Their leader, the mafia boss, looked at him with a deadly coldness and said, "Execution is a duty. You must follow orders without error, or you will pay the price." Then he nodded to his assistant, who began torturing the broker and cut off part of his ear as punishment. Meanwhile, Chance was reviewing the photos of the body provided by the police. He noticed something strange that made him doubt the authenticity of the body. Before he could share his conclusions, 2 men suddenly attacked him, dragged him to a deserted place, and beat him severely. Then one of them said in a low voice, "You've interfered in something that doesn't concern you. That was your first mistake. Tell your friend to leave the city, or she will be killed." Elsewhere, a policewoman was investigating the murder of a mysterious homeless man. Chance, the former soldier, came to her and presented shocking evidence: a medallion pierced with an iron arrow that was found with the body. The policewoman stared at the medallion for a moment, then said firmly, "I will request an autopsy again." On the other side of the city, the business broker was making a deal with a homeless man. He discovered that the man was alone without family or friends, which made him an ideal target. At the same time, the mafia boss met with a new client and assured him, with a reassuring smile, the hunt will be completely safe. The coroner was colluding with the gang, responsible for hiding any criminal evidence linking them to the crimes. When the policewoman went to him and ordered him to re-autopsy the body, he felt fear but had no choice, especially after she threatened to open an investigation into his involvement. That night, the second man, Beck Van, arrived at the coroner's house. He didn't knock on the door, but fired a fatal shot through the small opening, and the coroner fell instantly. Elsewhere, Fushin was talking to his men, saying, "This will be our last hunt in America. After that, we will move to Eastern Europe." In the morning, the homeless man arrived at his meeting point with the broker, but found the gang waiting for him. He didn't realize he had become a participant in a deadly game where he was asked to run towards the river, and if he reached it, he would get $10,000. The homeless man refused the offer, but Fushin enticed him, saying, "It's a big amount. You can buy an apartment instead of sleeping in the streets." Then Beck Van threw the money belt at his feet. The homeless man hesitated, but finally decided to participate. The race began, and the man ran towards the cemetery, but the hunter was right behind him. The hunter didn't waste time and fired a shot that hit the homeless man in the leg, but he didn't finish him off yet, as he was enjoying the chase. Then Fushin told him, "It's a $500,000 hunt. It must end with a dead body." When the hunter approached the homeless man to deliver the killing blow, the man pounced on him, stole his weapon, and fired 10 consecutive shots into his stomach. The hunter fell to the ground, gasping, while Fushin stood beside him and said, "That's why we take the money first." Then he fired a shot directly into his heart. start. The homeless man reached the city, exhausted and injured, and asked passersby for help, but everyone ignored him, thinking he was just another beggar asking for money. He felt like a worthless ghost, and when he realized that no one would save him, he gave up. The next moment, the gang surrounded him, shot him in cold blood, took the money belt, and left his body lying in the middle of the street. In the morning, Chance went to the crime scene and met the policewoman to tell her that he had a source who could reveal all the information. But at that time, the broker was living a nightmare. He was trying to escape from Beck Van, who was trying to kill him with a bullet in the head. But when Beck Van fired the shot, it wasn't just an ordinary shot. It turned the broker's head into a bomb of blood and flesh. When Chance the policewoman and Natasha arrived at the man who would help them, they found him headless. Before they could absorb the shock, Beck Van suddenly appeared fired and hit the policewoman. Chance jumped behind a car, picked up her weapon, and returned fire at the attackers. Meanwhile, Beck Van was escaping in another car, while the policewoman was taking her last breaths. There was no time for grief, as the fight was still ongoing. Chance shot one of the pursuers and then seized a motorcycle. He and Natasha jumped on the bike and sped away, while cars chased them at breakneck speed. During the chase, Chance left the bike for Natasha, then stopped and began taking down the enemies one by one. He drove the bike over flames, crashed into one of the attackers, and then returned to the bridge quickly. When he got off the bike, he noticed fuel leaking from it. Chance sped off on his motorcycle towards his enemies, firing without hesitation. At the last moment, he jumped into the air and the bike collided with their car and exploded while he fell to the ground, rolling. He didn't stop but continued firing until he killed them all. Fushin arrived moments later and engaged Chance in a fierce exchange of fire, but he quickly realized that the battle would not be in his favor, so he fled carrying Natasha, jumping onto a train passing under the bridge. Fushin said to his assistant, Beck Van, "The last target is a bit difficult." Then they boarded helicopters with a group of hired killers. Fushin looked at the killers seriously and said, "This target is exceptional. The reward for it is $1 million." In the forest, Chance and Natasha continued to flee. Natasha felt tired, so Chance got off the horse and let her rest for a moment, but instead of relaxing, he pulled a snake from the roadside and placed it in the mafia's path. Moments later, one of the killers was bitten, and his companions killed him in cold blood. Chance reached his uncle's house, and after a quick greeting, he left Natasha there, took his rifle and horse, then told them his route, and embraced them before leaving. He didn't know that the mafia was approaching. When the gang reached the uncle's house, they found an elaborate trap. Chance shot an arrow at them, setting the house on fire. The killers were busy trying to extinguish the fire, giving the uncle and Natasha a chance to escape on horseback, but the killers didn't stop and started shooting at them. Fushin shouted angrily, "Stop! Our target is only Chance." The killers boarded the helicopters to pursue Chance, but at the crucial moment, Beck Van appeared to kill Chance. He knocked him off the horse, but he disappeared from their sight. In an abandoned factory, a group of killers was preparing to eliminate their target. They didn't realize that Chance was preparing for them inside, hiding in the darkness. He took advantage of one of them being distracted and attacked them using gasoline and fire. He burned one of them alive, while Fushin shouted, "The target is difficult, but there are 20 of us, and only one of him." They all went inside to eliminate him, but Chance began killing them one by one with skill and cunning. He appeared from above, fired detonated gasoline canisters, and burned some of them. The battle was fierce. They exchanged fire, and Chance jumped over a burning barrel before it exploded. "This bastard is mine," Fushin said, advancing to face Chance face to face. Chance kicked one of them, then shot another, before ending the fight with a direct punch to his face. He looked at his pierced shirt and sighed sarcastically, "Sorry for putting holes in your shirt." Natasha entered with the old uncle, who said to her, "We'll put an arrow in every body." He shot an arrow at one of the killer's bodies, while Natasha was suddenly attacked by an enemy. She quickly grabbed a gun and shot him in the face. "I'll finish them," the old uncle said, taking the gun from her. Chance jumped towards one of them, grabbed a rope and fired, but he missed and hit the old uncle in the leg. Natasha threw another gun to him, and he fired and killed the rest. Beck Van arrived and fired shots and grenades mercilessly. Chance hit one of the attackers and then jumped away before Fushin detonated the gasoline barrel. In a single moment, everyone fired. Chance jumped quickly and fired a shot from directly under his feet, hitting Beck Van in the chest and killing him. Fushin screamed in anger when he saw his assistant dead, but it was too late. Chance ended the life of the last of the attackers, leaving only him and Fushin. Fushin started firing wildly while Chance chased him. The latter managed to jump away before the entire place exploded. Fushin said with an arrogant smile, "There's no town I haven't fired a shot in. You won't be able to kill me." Chance smiled and asked him coldly, "How does it feel to be the prey today?" Fushin replied confidently, "I'm always the winner." Chance laughed. "That doesn't look like it." Chance jumped and fired, but Fushin didn't fall easily. At that moment, Natasha arrived, but Fushin grabbed her and took her hostage. "Throw the weapon or I'll kill her," he threatened. Chance was forced to throw his weapon, but he still kept the grenade in his pocket. Fushin asked him, "What made you ruin my life?" Chance replied sarcastically, "Even the poor get bored sometimes." He asked Natasha to put a bullet in the gun, but when she did, she threw it away. Suddenly, Chance lunged at Fushin and knocked him to the ground before he could fire. Fushin got up angrily and hit Chance with a burning plank, but the latter grabbed it, his eyes gleaming with anger. He remembered his friends who had died and delivered several consecutive blows to Fushin, then took out the grenade and said, "Hunting season is over." He put the grenade in Fushin's pants, then shot him and sent him flying into the air. midair, the man fell to the ground and took the grenade out of his pocket with a sarcastic smile, thinking he had escaped, but it suddenly exploded and turned him into pieces. Natasha stood stunned, while Chance breathed deeply, looking at the destruction around him. The game is finally over. Then he turned and took her hand, and they walked away, leaving behind a world of destruction, but they survived. The film is not philosophical or complex. It's a commercial action film focused on excitement and violent confrontations, but its significance can be seen as highlighting the exploitation of the weak classes by the wealthy, while emphasizing that justice can be achieved even through illegal means. Hard Target is an enjoyable action film for fans of 90s films, especially because of the distinctive style of Chinese director John Woo, who adds artistic touches to the fight scenes. The story is simple, but it presents villainous characters who deserve hatred and an attractive hero with charisma and strength. But it's not a film with great intellectual depth. It's dedicated to fans of fast action and violent confrontations. And in the end, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all the new content.